about our tax rate because the district's EAV is declining at the moment, and because of the property tax cap formula, what happens is if we continue to levy like we normally levy dollars every year, the tax rate's going to go up. But everybody's property values are declining, so that doesn't necessarily translate into huge higher tax bills. But we want to try to explain what's going to happen. So what I have here is the 10-year tax rate history, and this is just the Lake Bluff 65 school district. And as you, I'm a little out of focus, aren't I? Let me see if I can focus that a little bit better. There, a little better. You see the spike that happened from 01 to 02. That's when the education fund tax rate was passed, which passed in 03, but it affected the 2002 tax levy. So that increased the rate up to just about $2.08. And since then, even with the building referendum passing, the board has tried to basically maintain the tax rate. And we can't just establish a rate, we levy dollars, and then the rate is determined based on the levy and the property values and the CPI. So it's really our best estimate on the dollar levy to get to the tax rate. So we haven't varied greatly. We've gone from 208 to 209, back down to 204, and we're back up to 208. So they've really kept it within 3 or 4 cents, which is pretty good over 6-7 years. Now, with the declining EAVs, and this year we're anticipating an 8% decline for 2010, and in 2011 we're anticipating maybe a 10% decline in the total property values. If we continue to levy as we have in the past, if we continue expense trends, if everything stays the same, and we just allow the tax cap formula to calculate, that blue line you see is what's going to happen to our total tax rate. So there's a significant spike there. We could be looking at this sun is killer. We could be looking at nearly a 35-cent increase this next year, followed by another 35-cent after that. And then my projections, and I have to estimate not only property values, but I also am estimating what the CPI will be, or the Consumer Price Index. So just based on the assumptions that I make, we're looking at a potential significant spike in the tax rate. The red line, the flat line, would indicate if we adjusted our levy to again try to maintain the rate around the $2.08 that we are now. That's what the red line would represent. Now then, if we try to maintain the rate, and that's that flat red line, and if we continue expense trends as they always have been, and we just trend those out over the next few years, what we're going to see here is we're not going to bring in enough revenues, and we're mostly property tax revenues as our only source of funding. We get some state money and a little bit of federal, but tax receipts are our biggest portion of our revenues. If we maintain the current rate, then our revenues are going to decline while expenses continue on at the current trend. We're going to eat up fund balances until eventually we're going to run out of cash and we're going to have negative fund balances. However, if we allow that blue line that showed that big spike, the increase of tax rate, if we allow it to do that, then you see where our current fund balances are. We're even going to raise them up a little bit before they start to decline, but we're going to maintain positive fund balances. We think, and what the administration is going to have to talk to the board about over the next few weeks, is maybe a happy medium, not necessarily allowing a huge spike in the rate, but not necessarily trying to maintain the rate, but somewhere there's a happy medium, someplace to meet in the middle. And then we need to look at our future expenditures and what can we do now to maybe mitigate any effect it has in the future. So we're in a very good financial position right now. We'd be in a good financial position in good economic times, but in bad economic times, we're really in a good financial position in this school district. So we have time to look ahead and plan ahead and know that we don't want to go out for a referendum or tax rate anywhere in the near future. So what can we do now to help ourselves down the line? So that's what we're doing. We're trying to be proactive and plan ahead and be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. That is the presentation. I'll show you one other slide, though. And it's an example of a specific home in the two scenarios. Let me bring this up. Okay. If, like I said, we're going to look at maybe an 8% decline followed by a 10% decline in our total EAV. If a home currently valued at $500,000 decreases in value that same amount, that 8 and 10%, and if we allow that blue line, that spike in the tax rate to go up, you would see that for the following year, that 35-cent tax rate increase, or not quite 35 cents, results in only a $137 higher tax bill because the home's values declined also. So the way the formula works, one of the variables is the home value plus the tax rate. So it will bring more money into the district, but it's not a significant, huge bump in an individual's property tax bill like you would think a 35-cent increase would be. That's if the home value declines the same rate as our total property values decline. Certainly if a home value didn't decline or even went up, then there would be a significant change in their increase in their tax bill. So that's just kind of an example of some what ifs. Questions? The levy will be adopted by the board in December. In November, they'll adopt an estimated levy, and in December, there will be a public hearing on the tax levy, and then they'll adopt the final tax levy, and that will then affect the tax bills that people receive next May. That's the cycle.
Are you prepared to also talk about the changes that you're looking to do to keep us from doing?
Well, as far as if anyone is listening, the changes that we're planning to do for expenses, we've already done some things this year. We didn't replace a retired administrator full-time. Certainly we contract some time from Lake Forest, but it's at a fraction of what that position was. We've eliminated a couple of support staff positions. We've eliminated, because of enrollment purposes, I can't remember the actual FTE and staff, but that was due to enrollment. So we're not replacing them. So we've made those changes, but these are things that the board will look at. We'll have a retreat in the wintertime. At that time, I present financial projections to the board and say, okay, here's what it's looking like. And at that time, we kind of talk about what needs to be done. The student laptop initiative is something that's under discussion. Is that something we need to continue? Do we need to modify it in some way? Do we need to rethink that program? So those are some things that the board can do or the administration can look at as far as expenses in the future and what can we do to change some trends. Salary increases is always something to talk about. So most of our expenses are in salaries and benefits because we're a service industry. So that's a way that we can make some changes in the future as well. Anything else?
Jane, I know we've been talking a little bit about, sorry. I've had some questions, and I know we've talked a little bit about it, about why our tax rate for District 65 differs from that of District 67 when, in general, we are providing the same services. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I can, and I also have a great illustration for that as well. Basically, their tax rate is quite a bit lower because their property value is so much higher. I don't know if these numbers play out here on the screen very well, but if you look just at the bottom, there's 3 bar graphs here. If you just look at the bottom graph, it shows you what 1 penny in tax rate would generate and Lake Forest 67 School District, which is the big blue dark bar, versus Lake Bluff 65, which is the green bar. So 1 cent, 1 penny, if we both had 1 cent tax rate, they would get over $270,000 with that penny, where we get a little over $73,000. It's just really simple math. Their property value is so much higher than ours is, that a lower rate generates a lot more dollars. It's basically that simple. Anything else? Okay. If not, if you think of something later, you can always contact me by email, by phone, whatever you need. Sometimes questions come to mind later on, so feel free. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Oh, let me see. I'm about the shoes. Oh, I love them. They are gorgeous. They are gorgeous. I love them.
I'm not real comfortable having the board sign the agreement. I haven't even showed them. So I'm going to ask them what they want to do, if they're okay with it, but I'm thinking now I'm going to change my mind. I want you to come to the first part of it.
Terry Carney, present. Al Pfeifhaus.
Present.
Eric Grenier.
Present.
Corinne Torkelson.
Okay. The purpose of the budget hearing.
The purpose of this meeting is to allow the public to comment on the proposed 2010-11 school budget that has been on public display since August 25th, 2010. People desiring to speak to the budget should be recognized by me, state their name and address, and then make their comments related to the budget. Written comments may also be handed. Right now we are going to ask for comments. Comments from and by the administration. Jane.
At the August meeting, the board reviewed all of the documentation, the entire budget, in its entirety. Tonight is really a formality to adopt it, and this is the opportunity for anybody from the public to make any comments, ask questions on the budget. It is an overall balanced budget, too.
Thank you, Jane. Any comments from the public related to the budget? Okay. Any comments from any of the Board of Education members? Okay. If I may ask for a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
I move that we adjourn the budget hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the budget hearing is now adjourned. We will start the regular meeting in about 3.5 minutes. And the tape is just going to keep rolling since it's a short period.
Oh.
September 28th, 2010. We are returning into open session. I always forget, do we have to call back to order? No. Okay. The first thing up tonight, we will ask Andy to come up and speak with us. John, do you want to give an introduction?
Sure. Dr. Hendrickson normally would go down at the superintendent's report. However, he has another commitment that he needs to honor here pretty quickly over in Lake Forest, so he asked that we would move him up, and so we are obliging him.
It's a twofer tonight. All things curricular. I've had a wonderful month. I spent a good deal of time in each of the schools earlier, especially in the month, visiting teacher classrooms and especially being at curriculum night. I was so impressed with both the Lake Bluff Elementary and Middle School curriculum night. The teachers, really, I thought their presentations were all about the exciting things that's happening, the caring that they're devoting, and the partnerships that they're wanting to engender with parents. And I didn't hear much about the homework policies and all the things that, are less important, but sometimes shared at curriculum nights. I was very impressed, very impressed. We had a lot going on this month. I was part of a little bit of it. I'm certainly aware of some of it. These are kind of the highlights. In elementary school math, Janice Heigl visited again. She did another training around the 4th and 5th grade Bridges pilot. That continues to be going well. The teachers are very excited about that. I've heard from a number of them about the lessons, the deep thinking that the kids are into, and the manipulatives being used. So there's a lot of excitement around that. She also met with the K-5 teachers that are doing Number Corner, and I sat in a little on a couple grade levels of that. And what I was thrilled to see was Janice Heigl, our math consultant, is helping us understand how to do algebraic thinking, even beginning in 1st grade. So she was showing techniques about how if you say 2 plus 2 equals 4, instead of saying 2 plus 2 equals 4, help the kids see that 2 plus 2 equals another quantity, 3 plus 1, and then solve down, 4 equals 4. And here we have that algebraic thinking, that patterning. And I think she's got so much talent, and the teachers seem to be very receptive of her work with them. So good things to come. We did quite a bit of work just in after-school meetings with the high school, a bit impromptu. Nate and I went over and met with Jim Sullivan, talked to him about our 8th graders transitioning to the high school science classes, and I'm pleased to report that Jim Sullivan feels very strongly about the preparedness of our kids coming into the science classes at the high school. So we said, if there are any concerns, please let us know. He said, no, I've queried the teachers, and they also feel very strongly that the Lake Bluff kids are well prepared. So kudos to our science teachers all the way up. We met with world language teachers. Matt Sacedo met, and then I also met with world language ID Mary Kay Kerner and the Spanish teachers, and began our discussions about our world language evaluation program here in Lake Bluff. And we were getting Mary Kay's input on strengths and weaknesses, how she sees the world language kids faring there. And as well, she gave the same message that Jim Sullivan did, that the Lake Bluff kids in French and Spanish are well prepared. In fact, we learned that quite a few more of our kids were placed into level 2 honors than did the Deer Path kids. Now, some of them have dropped down, and we're reevaluating that and making sure that we're going to articulate between Deer Path and here so our expectations are similar. We don't see kids dropping down next year. Even so, even the kids that are staying in level 2 honors outnumber the Deer Path kids. And I'm not talking percentages, I'm talking students. So that's really terrific. First early sign that our K-8 Spanish program is adding some value here. So more to come on that. We're looking for an October report on the World Language Program evaluation. We're preparing that for you. Heather Comack is looking at another algebra book, has done some looking at different texts and is recommending one. Nate and I are kind of taking a look as well at the online resources that it has, and we expect to be putting forth an order for a new algebra book for her. And goal setting was introduced at both the middle school and the elementaries this year, or this month. Nate Blackmer and Katie Williams, Kathleen Tomei met with various groups looking for people that are involved. I know at the middle school it's going to be done kind of broad-based, where teachers are going to get involved in looking at NWA and doing math and reading goal setting, as well as maybe some other things. Maybe Ann will share more about that. At the Lake Bluff Elementary School, some of the teachers are going to be getting involved in trying out goal setting with the kids. So then tomorrow, we have an exciting thing that Ann Wirtz, Patty, Lori are putting together, which is a data retreat, and the teachers are going to look at the NWA scores and all the data that Ann and Patty and everyone have put together for the teachers. They're going to start identifying needs of students, groups, ways to differentiate, and ways to deliver interventions for kids that are struggling. So it's really good stuff is happening here. Finally, this next month will be a big month for our Vision 2020 group, where on October 7th we're coming together to do an all-day training with Materi Group consultant Ed Coughlin. And following that, there's a conference that we're putting together for people that are interested to go to October 12th, 13th, 14th, or 13th, 14th, and 15th. I'm not sure. We're looking basically for various people that are interested to go for one day each, and so more information will come about that, but some neat things going to be happening for 2020 in October. Any questions? Well,
Report.
Thank you.
thank you. I'm sorry I have to leave. You've got a great group here of new teachers.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Hendrickson. One presentation this evening, the Wellness Committee. Chris, if we could have you come up.
Hi, I'm Chris Schwartz, and I'm the new chairperson of the Wellness Committee that oversees both the middle and the elementary school. And it's actually federally mandated, and it was created to promote children's health and prevent childhood obesity. And it covers two areas, one being nutrition and the other physical activity and education. Regarding the nutrition side, there's two components to that. One, it has guidelines for the nutritional value in terms of the food being served at school, and to that end we're looking at evaluating some vendors to come in and provide a 5-day lunch for both the elementary and middle school. And the other component is nutrition education, and to that regard we're looking at fun, creative, engaging ways to make the kids excited about learning about nutrition and establishing some healthy eating patterns for them. And one of it is utilizing the school garden at the elementary school. And this week they're participating, the first graders, in their first harvest week. So that's exciting for them. And we've arranged, I think it was last Friday, for a tour of the farmers market, and they talked to Dia Organics there, and so they had an opportunity to learn about that as well. And so there'll be more things like that coming. And even at the middle school, we're going to explore taking a look at even starting a garden there, hopefully. And the other component is the physical activity and education. And that just oversees to ensure that each school provides recess and physical education, which we already do. But so it's more about, for us here in Lake Bluff, to promote activity and to get targeting those kids that are inactive, because there's a lot of kids that are scheduled with sports, organized sports, and other physical activity, but we want to really target here those kids that aren't active and provide opportunities for them, such as after-school programs. We're looking to bring in yoga at both schools after school for those kids, as well as a bike club at the middle school, and also just a pickup game at the elementary school, just to have fun and really emulate the environment we grew up in, where everyone played kickball or soccer or something in their own neighborhood, and we don't have that anymore. So to really get their participation for that. And we're also involved with the International Walk to School Day this year, which is October 6th, and so we're getting volunteers for that, just to encourage more kids to walk to school, and also trying to get participation on a district-wide basis for the pumpkin chase this year. And we're encouraging teachers to communicate to their kids to get them excited and almost participate as a team, where they can pick their own color or a theme, to get them excited to do this more as a team environment, and then offer prizes that way. So those are the type of activities that we're looking to do this year. Thank you. Any questions?
Chris, if people want to volunteer for any of these things, should they contact you?
Yeah, and
or-
also, I forgot that there's also, I designed a wellness page. There's actually several pages on the website, and actually Kathleen told me that it just went live, but it's got things where it shows did you know facts, research-based information on health and nutrition and activities, things to do in this area, bike paths, different things like that, to get outside and be active, as well as just helpful tips on healthy snacks, breakfast, things like that, including an area of safety with bicycle safety, wearing helmets, and other issues as that. So. And then my email's on that website, and we're looking for volunteers to help us with these activities.
Kathleen, is that on the district page or each school page?
All three.
Okay.
It's a left-hand link on district, LBES, and LBMS.
Left-hand link on all three pages. Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
I did have a question about another area. I'm sorry, Chris. I know there has been some concern expressed by parents over especially the last 3 or 4 years, about the amount of weight, particularly middle schoolers carry with their backpacks and their laptops. Is that an area that the Wellness Committee might be looking at? You know, a child walking to school with a 35-pound pack on their back, that kind of thing?
Because actually on the website, I found through Cornell University, their ergonomics department, they've got a great school guide, and it gives a chart, and it's a percentage of your child's weight, and it actually has photos of how a child should actually be carrying a backpack, and it shows, you know, the wrong way to do it and a correct way, and that's listed, and there's other safety concerns.
So that's an area that the committee might be looking into.
Right, and then it's going to be communicated to the teachers as well, but that's mostly for parents to become educated themselves in those areas, and also even the ergonomics of sitting at a computer so that they don't get carpal tunnel or eye strain, as we're developing those things now.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda would be communications. Communications and questions from visitors. And I know we have one. Bob, if you want to come up, you're the first one. If we could just get you to introduce yourself and also state your address.
Sure. My name is Bob Clifford. I live at 320 Circle Drive. Came here tonight just to try to get a public comment on record regarding the chiller that is at Lake Bluff Middle School. Those of you who don't know where Circle Drive is, it dead ends right at the between middle school and East School. We were hopeful that the wall that was erected this summer was going to mitigate a lot of the noise there. And as you may or may not have seen, the test results are back from the audiologist. It's been a minimal impact on the noise. My wife and I have talked to John. We talked to John last week to kind of get an update on what their plans are, what your plans are to address further solutions for this. And I'm very appreciative of his willingness to work, and I believe it's very sincere about trying to find a solution to this. But it's a big disruption to our quality of life where we live. It's something that we can hear in our house with the windows closed. We can hear it in our bedroom. For those of you that may not have been around Circle Drive, we have a lot of children. We do a lot of activities outdoors. When the chiller is going, it's quite a nuisance. So I'm hoping that that solutions will be brought forth, investigated as far as what's the feasibility, as well as keeping in mind the cost to do these. We're cognizant of that. We don't want to ask for solutions that are going to cost a lot of money and have minimal impact. So I'm hoping that this is something that we can find a solution to before this thing needs to go back on in the late springtime in May or June or whenever the weather will call for that. As you know, we went through a period of time here this summer where there were no solutions, or the solution that was put forth took quite a bit of time to get up to speed, and we had an entire summer with that noise in our neighborhood. So that was really the purpose of comment here tonight, and I would encourage, as we talked with John last week, not that I wish anybody to experience it, but we'd be happy to have you over to our house and sit in our circle, sit on our porch, come in our house, and take a listen to the noise. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rob. Any other comments or questions from any visitors this evening? Okay. Next communication would be introduction of new staff. And I'll be turning this over to Katie and Nate.
Yes, the
Okay.
principals, if you would come up and introduce your staff individually, that would be helpful.
I am so pleased to introduce the new staff at Lake Bluff Elementary. So I'm going to introduce their name and give them just a moment to say something to our school board. First of all, we have Ann Ryan, and she is a kindergarten teaching assistant. Ann.
Good evening. First, before I say a little bit about myself, I wanted to just tell you what an honor it is to be part of Lake Bluff School District. Prior to coming or joining our school district here, I've taught 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade in neighboring school districts.
And then we have Nikki Knezovich, who's teaching 3rd grade. I did say it correctly, right? Yes, okay.
Hi, I've taught kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 5th grades in Barrington, and I am thrilled to be a part of Lake Bluff.
Welcome.
And then Amanda Willie, who is a teaching assistant in 4th grade.
Hi, I'm very excited to be a part of Lake Bluff Schools, and my experience in teaching 3rd grade in Springfield, Illinois has been a benefit to me working in 4th grade here, so thank you.
And then Jody.
Springfield.
Yeah. And Jody Hoke, our speech therapist.
Hello, I am also very thankful to be working here with Lake Bluff School District, serving grades 3 through 5 over at the elementary school. And my experiences have really been in a variety of states, but it feels really great to be here in the Midwest. I had most recently been in Texas, always primarily working with elementary school students, which that's what I really enjoy. So I'm excited to have that opportunity here. Thank you.
And last but not least, Kelly Bay in 3rd grade.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I taught in Schaumburg, School District 54, before coming to Lake Bluff. I was in 1-2 multi-age for 3 years, And I'm also currently getting my master's in reading through National Louis. So my husband and I moved to the Knollwood community at the beginning of the summer. So I'm thrilled to be living and working in such a wonderful place. So thanks for having me.
So you have just a brief introduction of a great professional, caring group of people that bring along wonderful experience and terrific skills. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Nate.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. I'm excited to be able to introduce our two new members of the middle school staff. Both happen to be on the fine arts team. And I'd like to start by introducing Janet Ingle-Julian. She's our art teacher.
Hello. I'm glad to see I don't have to move the microphone down too far. But I'm Janet. I worked in Woodridge for 7 years, and I am thrilled to be a part of the Lake Bluff District. It's been wonderful working with Nate and everyone else, so thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you guys at some art shows in the future. I'll send you an invitation.
Thank you.
And our new drama teacher is Craig Bryant.
Hi, I'm grateful to be here also. I'm grateful to be in a school district that values its arts education. After a long career in the arts myself, I transitioned into teaching, so I guess you would call me a midlife career changer. Last year I taught at Gordon Tech High School, and it's just a thrill to be here. Thank you.
Both Janet and Craig have brought a lot of great new ideas to our building, and we look forward to sharing those with you here in the near future. But thank you very much. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to introduce these two to you tonight.
Thank you, and we welcome you all to Lake Bluff School
Welcome.
District 65.
Welcome.
We're glad to have you. All right, on to reports. Next will be Kate with our PTO report.
Hello. We actually have a very busy month ahead for the PTO. Tomorrow night, we are doing a Get to Know the PTO event at the Noodle Bar from 7 to 10, so we encourage everyone to come out and get to know people who are currently running the committees and find out more ways to help, either little or medium. Our wrapping paper sale has been extended until this Friday, October 1st, so people still have time to get in their orders or to go collect more orders. And this is our fundraiser for this fall. Book Fair is coming up. That's October 7th and 8th. And we are also looking for volunteers to help the kids fill out wish lists and to help parents come in and purchase the books. And I understand that this year we have scan guns, so that should be exciting. I'm looking forward to that part. And then, of course, we have Pumpkin Fest coming up October 15th and 16th. Again, we're looking for volunteers to help run the games, and I think we have quite a few for setup and cleanup and to help register for the pumpkin chase, so mostly just people to run the games. And I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but the Noodle Bar and Innovasi are both helping us out with the Friday night pasta and rice dinner to support the run. So Noodle Bar will be actually serving food under the warming shelter next to the haunted house. And then Innovasi is preparing a special pumpkin chase menu. So we're excited to have them involved in our community event.
Great.
And then, too, we have launched our PTO web store, which is great. People are actually going on and using it, which is thrilling. And just to remind everyone that we can purchase our yearbooks, both middle school and elementary, in the web store. You can also go in there and sign up to volunteer for Pumpkin Fest and any of those activities, register for the chase, set up if you want to sell a craft, kids craft, or offer something for the bake sale. So I encourage you to go in there and poke around. There's also an item if you just want to donate to the PTO, you can do that there too. And lastly, I do have to say happy birthday to Mary Jane Brady.
Happy birthday.
That doesn't sound like PTO business to me.
It's really everyone's business. And I would sing, but I'm mic'd. That could be bad.
Save it for
Thank you,
tomorrow,
Kate.
the
Yes,
Noodle Bar.
exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, Kate. Next, I think Katie just did. Yeah, they're all good. Yeah. Next will be Dr. Esplin in our superintendent report.
I see all the teachers are leaving right before I get ready to speak.
Nothing personal, John.
Work on your timing, folks. right. First part of my report, I want to remind and announce, for those that haven't been told before, the IASB, Illinois Association of School Boards, fall dinner is October 13th, and normally we don't make a big deal out of it, but this time it is at Lake Bluff Elementary School. And Jim Bauman, who is a resident of Lake Bluff and also a member of the state school board, has asked that we host a meeting, and we're happy to oblige. And so if you are interested in attending, or if you're not interested in attending and you still plan on coming anyway, please, we need to have a good turnout. It's October 13th, and it is from 6 to 9 o'clock, and you just need to let Liz know if you plan to attend. They didn't give us a deadline, but I would assume that sooner rather than later would be advised. Kenny will be catering the event, and IASB will be reimbursing us. So a nice way to show off the new elementary school and to welcome those in Lake County to our school district. So hopefully you can attend. Certainly will understand if you can't. Next, the district office will be moving Friday, October 8th. The phone number will remain the same, but our new address is 900 North Shore Drive, and it is Suite 220, right? Suite 220. And that move will be complete, hopefully then, for Monday the 11th for the start of business. So all things will be complete at that time. I have more after this. However, at this time, I'm going to turn this part of my report over to Carly Jacks, the Lake Bluff Middle School social worker, who will be giving us the results of the Illinois Youth Survey.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm excited to share with you guys the results of our Illinois Youth Survey. I did want to just say, while we're getting this up and running, that this is just going to be a brief overview of the survey results. We do have a leaders luncheon that's going to be October 26th. That's going to be from 11:30 to 1:15. It's hosted by Lead and Speak Up, our underage drinking coalition supporters and drivers of the initiative in the community, and they are going to be covering the results in full. There's going to be community officials, school officials, parents, all supporters of the underage drinking coalition there to fully go over the results and talk on a bigger picture, in depth, what we plan to do with these survey results. So there is a $10 donation, lunch is included. Information can be found on the Lead website to go to that. So to start, the quick synopsis for you. You can go to the next one. The Illinois Youth Survey we do every other year here in Lake Bluff. We started it in 2008. The high school actually started in 2006. And they did it with 10th and 12th graders to kind of just get a quick assessment of how things looked with students. So then the thought was that, well, we need to start looking at our middle schoolers as well. So we started with 6th and 8th grade. And it's been pretty interesting. I should say it's fully, can we go back for a second? Sorry. It's Lake County wide. So we've got schools all over the county taking this 20,000 ballot surveys this past year. And as you can see, we had between combined districts 65 and 67, about 650 or so kids take this survey. So we're very excited about that. Okay. And what are we doing with this survey? Well, a couple different things. Mainly, we want to look for trends. We want to see what's going on in our community and our schools with our kids, find out what their perceptions are of what's going on, get their reports, and then action plans. So what are we going to do to address some of this information, and how do we want to move forward with it? A neat thing about doing it every other year is we are now actually able to start looking at our past data, and that's going to continue to be the case where we're going to look for improvements, look at what are we doing, is it working, are we seeing the effects, and we've got a little bit of that information today to share, and also relative to the county. So how are we compared to our neighbors, what's going on locally around us, and where are we fitting into that picture. So this graph, and I think everybody has a copy of this in front of them, but this graph is showing the 2008 and 2010 data for 6th grade students. Now again, this is Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood combined, and this is for, the question is, in the past month, how many times have you used any of these substances? And now this is showing non-use. So this is going to be important to know for these graphs, is non-use. So maybe I should have said that first. So these are actually good graphs. So yeah, we want to keep a positive spin and focus on the good things. So as you can see, we have some pretty good numbers that we feel good about. And obviously there's some things that we want to target moving forward. But so this is for our 6th graders. And then the next slide shows our 8th graders. So again, the purple is 2008, the white is 2010. So this, again, yes, this is non-use. So we can see a little bit of difference in the numbers, gives us kind of an idea of where our kids are at and what we might want to target moving forward. All right, and this is just kind of summative data of that. Basically, we do have relatively low levels of use, which is great to hear. We have seen increases at the 6th grade level, and our 8th grade level data has stayed pretty stable. And we're kind of working to figure out all the different factors to why that may be. Go ahead to the next one. This is a comparison to Lake County. So the red dot, and this is just for 2010, the red dot is Lake County, non-use. The purple bar is Lake Bluff, Lake Forest, Knollwood, non-use. So we're looking pretty good in terms of the county numbers as well. Sorry, I should have said that was for 6th grade, and then this is for 8th grade. So, okay, and then some additional information. This isn't just about substance use. There are a couple of different other components to it. One that we did want to point out and mention, a big community push right now is looking at over-the-counter drugs, because we're starting to see some trends. We're starting to see a little bit of increase in kind of awareness and wanting to kind of target this stuff, which is good. You can see the numbers here. Mainly one thing we wanted to stress as well as the over-the-counter drugs such as cough syrup and things of that nature. Now there are prescription medications that also play a part into this, and there's a big push that's going to be coming soon here about a prescription use pickup, and I believe it's going to be at the police station, although is it? Okay, I didn't want to be quoted on that, but yeah, and I think it starts in October, and it's going to be an opportunity for people to bring things in their home that they're not using anymore, maybe old prescriptions for, whatever, to just kind of get out of the house, not have it be, anything that could be used inappropriately, and also just some awareness about the NyQuils and the Sudafeds and stuff like that, keeping those things safe at home. So there's some questions on bullying, and which I think is good because I like to get that information. And we do see some pretty good numbers here in terms of reduction. So we are, due to probably all of our awareness initiatives and discussions and various programming that we have going on in the schools, we do see a reduction. Obviously, we just want to keep that reduction going. In 8th grade, there was a small increase with the 6th graders, and there's a lot of stuff that we've been doing with the 6th graders as they come into middle school and try to target the bullying situation. There's some Lake County numbers and elevated physical bullying threats in Lake County relative to our area. So just kind of something that we want to keep an eye on. And we can go to the next one. So one of the things that we wanted to also talk about is just prevention and proactive things that are going on that we think are relevant to this and that's asked in the survey. So the first thing we see here is participation in activities, which is a big protective factor when we're looking at substance use. So what are they involved in? What are they doing in their free time? Are they finding meaningful things to participate in to kind of push them in positive directions? And we do see some pretty good involvement numbers in our community, which is great. And that is also something that we keep targeting, keep trying to provide opportunities for kids to get involved in things, but we like to see those numbers. Okay. And the peers. So the peers, mainly perception of what's going on in the community, is also assessed, and it's pretty important because as you'll see in the next slide, you can shoot to the next one, the perception, now this is information collected from Lake Forest High School's social norms campaign that they did last year, and what this did was tallied actual student use versus students' perceptions of how they thought, students were using. You can see in this graph, it's pretty discrepant. So, and that's good in the sense that we kind of want to start the trend of thinking, you know, along the lines of not everybody's doing it. It's not something that, you know, is widely perceived as the students may think. So if you can flip to the next one, you'll see one of the posters that Lake Forest High School has a big social norms campaign going on right now, and every month, I believe, maybe a little bit longer than a month, but they're going to rotate through these different posters. They're all over the school. There's a big campaign with it, and this is just the example, so we wanted to put it on there. And actually, this information we are going to use with our 8th graders in the spring when we start doing high school transition. We're going to have students who are part of the leadership committee at the high school come talk to the 8th graders, talk about perception, talk about what's really going on, talk about how to think with accurate information. So that's going to be really cool. Another protective factor is family. So we're really you know, excited to start working with parents in the community with just different types of ways to kind of go about addressing this stuff. And the information that we got here that was interesting, my family has clear rules about alcohol use. We have some pretty high numbers there, and actually an increase with the 8th grade perception since, or reporting I should say, since 2008, which we like to see. And then the second one about just how often have you talked with your family about drugs and alcohol is a pretty important piece as well. And this is because one of the findings in the high school survey is that students who had conversations with their parents and had clear rules at home were 50% less likely to have past 30-day use. So that we think is really important. We're really excited to encourage parents and families to start having these conversations at home. I know the high school has started to do some take-home activities to produce some conversation, and I think we're going to look at that at the middle school level as well. So thanks for that. And also in the community, one of the questions was if you wanted to get your hands on something, how easy would it be? And 41% of the 8th graders reported that it would be sort of easy or very easy to acquire a substance of some sort that they wanted to use. So part of what we want to do with that is, again, community education, looking into the high school is doing a sticker shock campaign. I don't know if anybody's seen it. You go into some of the local stores and there's stickers that say, you know, it's illegal to provide alcohol to students under the age of, or kids under the age of 21 and whatnot. So just more initiatives like that to bring in awareness, and also the prescription drop-offs and things of that nature, just trying to make substance use less accessible. And the next one is this is, you know, just kind of what the student perception is of whether or not using legal substances is wrong. And we do have some high numbers there, which we like. Wrong or very wrong. How wrong do you think it is to drink alcohol under the age of 21? So that's good. And what are we doing next? A lot of stuff. We're going to continue to develop the emotional wellness initiatives in our buildings throughout the district, just to kind of talk about some of the protective factors and strengthening in those areas. We're also going to be collaborating with the communities for parent education, and also specifically drug and alcohol education in the schools, which there's a lot of cool stuff going on with that right now. Opportunities for student involvement with the leadership is definitely going on pretty strongly at the high school right now, and we're going to start building that at the middle school level, which leads us to the middle school focus group, which is going to be guided by Speak Up and Lead. And what we're doing here is putting together just any major stakeholders that want to be involved. What are we going to do at the middle school level? Because as we keep looking at this data year after year after year, we're finding that, you know, 5 years from now, where we want to see certain results, those are our middle school kids right now. So these are the kids to target and start working with, and even a little bit at the elementary school as well. We're going to start getting in touch with them. So yeah, so that's the information in a nutshell. Pretty quick highlight. If there's any, I don't know if there's any questions right now. Try to answer, otherwise.
Is the presentation available on our website, or could it be?
I don't believe it is right now, and I'm not sure what the plan is for that.
I think we're going to. We will have it available. What we're doing is presenting it to the school boards first, so we need to get it to the District 67 and 115 school boards, and then Lead's luncheon that she talked about on October 26th that will be released publicly, and then we'll be able to put the information on our website.
The presentation takes a lot of statistics and makes it very understandable.
Good, good. That's the intention.
Kate?
That's a great question.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh,
Because
yes.
it's-
How are the survey takers selected? They're selected by what grade they're in. So all 6th grade and 8th grade took the survey last year in the spring. The 6th graders took it in their social studies class for a day, and then the 8th graders took it in science. So unless the students were, absent, didn't get a chance to take it that day. That's how they were selected. Harder, okay? That's a good question as well. And
Repeat the question again.
Sorry. What's the confidence in the accuracy of the, or honesty of the survey? And they actually have two ways to look at that. One is in the survey, now I'm not going to be able to speak statistician stuff. Maybe Eric over there will help me with that. But there's validity questions that they ask in a certain way throughout the survey that if kids are messing around or, say one answer here but a different answer elsewhere, it sends off a trigger. That says, well, this doesn't quite seem valid. They also have an honesty question at the end, which again, you're hoping for honesty, but it says, how honest were you taking this survey? And I looked at the actual numbers, and I think only 12, but maybe don't quote me on that, surveys that were invalid. So of the 300 or so that we had in our building, that's pretty good. So, and I think we did a lot of, I know the kids took it 2 years ago and we're probably a little bit aware of it, but when we talked about it again this year, or I guess when we took it in the spring, we talked about honesty, we talked about confidentiality, we talked about the importance of being honest, and the kids seemed to respect that. And I sat in on a couple of the surveys and people seem to be taking it seriously. So it is anonymous. It's definitely completely anonymous. So we hope that gives the students a little bit more courage to kind of give some honest answers as well. But yeah, that's a good question. Any other?
I'd like to comment, I appreciate the fact that in the next steps, there's a section on increased programming and community collaboration for parent education, because our community has a reputation also for parent enablers here and there, and there are all the gruesome stories occasionally of parents really getting themselves into hot water legally. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. Mm-hmm. But I know that there are still parents who believe that it's protecting their children by allowing them to drink at home with their friends and maybe somehow corralling them, and forgetting the fact that the data that suggests that alcohol use in teenage up till the age of 20 or even 21 is pretty brutal on brain development, and hopefully that'll get out to those folks.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the parents who host lose the most is the title of that campaign, and I think from what I hear in Lake County, it carries some pretty stiff penalties, and that's starting to occur. So I think the more that initiative starts to get enforced and people become aware of it, I think that will help with that. But yeah.
Great.
A lot of parents. Yeah, thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Carly, and Dr. Wirtz as well. Continuing on with my report, I have a few other items. Last month I told you that we would be discussing strategic plan issues from last year and taking them off. What I've decided to do is to move those into 2 issues for tonight and 2 issues for next month, and maybe some carryover from this meeting. And we'd mentioned that we're moving out of the district office the 8th of October, which means then that once the maintenance folks find a new home, and we hope that we believe that we have one with the Park District and Village, that East will be empty. And so to go back over some issues that have been covered in the past, but as you all know here, the East School Task Force worked on what to do with East and looked and hoped for some taker to renovate it, to renew it. Could not find one. The facility action team then was created out of the last strategic plan. And after great hand-wringing and gnashing of teeth, the facility action team, when it could not find a usable option for East School made the recommendation to raise the building and to create usable green space at the East School site. So going forward then, I had told the board at the last meeting that by December I think we should have a workable plan going forward. So at this point, in absence of any other recommendation, and assuming that the preponderance of evidence is that East School needs to be raised, the issue then is, are we willing to go forward? I am prepared to make a recommendation at the next board meeting to recommend its destruction with the saving of certain items such as the mural, the hearth, the front entryway, those types of things. Is it acceptable to this board to place that on the agenda for next month? Is there anything anybody needs to see? The recommendation at this point would be to make it green space, but then to work within that to make what type of green space do we want, because there are some items that I can bring up that are of interest, that are low cost. Is there something I'm missing, I guess, before I would recommend to move forward on that?
John, I think people will be curious to know what the plans are for the mural and the other elements that we might remove.
Sure,
and that would be very helpful, I think.
Absolutely. And, the mural is already, seeing that was done before I came, I think that was the accepted fact that was going to the elementary school. And that's still the plan, that we will put it somewhere in the elementary school, out of the reach of children, but visible. So the rest of it would all come in the comprehensive plan of what to do with that green space site, and I think that we can have something ready for you, at least a skeleton of a plan for next month.
Yeah, I think, when we first started working on this project, we certainly wanted to find something for East School, but at first we made a commitment back before we knew what was going to happen, or the board did, and this board seems to be carrying on the commitment that we're not going to leave that building become another West School. And that was a commitment we made quite a long time ago. The other thing, having been involved in the East School Task Force and watching this whole thing sort of play out, it's economics, simple as that. And obviously needs, maybe, certainly the needs aren't there, but the economy is such that alternative use just couldn't be found, and it was a painstaking effort to find it. And we really did try and find uses that would work for the community. It wasn't an issue of trying to find an angel to come and save it, although that was always an option. There were a lot of things that we tried to do to make that work, and so partially as a victim of circumstance, but continuing with our agreement that we're not going to just leave it there.
I'm very happy for you to be able to come forth at the next meeting with a way for us to move forward with this, because I think we've definitely done everything we can up until this point to look at all the other options, so I welcome that opportunity.
Yeah, we even almost went forward to try to put a community center together, given what's going on at Gorton. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that wouldn't be working out so well. Yeah, I will definitely put together, Jane and I will, we've been speaking on and off with various different people that have some interesting thoughts for that space, and we'll have a presentation ready for the next month's meeting. On top of that, then the facility action team also wanted to deal with some issues at the middle school, and those were to repair the science labs, not to make them Johns Hopkins-like or anything, but just to make them functional, and also to repair the bathrooms at Lake Bluff Middle School, to basically replace the fixtures that are in there with similar fixtures, but ones that work. And I will turn it over to Jane at this point just for a brief bit of information, but just to verify, there is money in the budget this year, yes, to do that renovation, correct?
I budgeted to do the renovation of the bathrooms, the updating of the science classrooms, and raising of East School. So it's in the budget that you just are about to approve, which gives you the freedom to make some of these decisions. If we can get them done the fiscal year, I don't know, but certainly we have the flexibility now that it's budgeted. And by the way, we are using the funds from the sale of West School to fund most of these projects.
And just to, we'll bring it up again next month, but we all know this, but there will be asbestos abatement that needs to be done at each school before it can be raised, which to many may seem counterintuitive. Why do you have to fix something when you're knocking it down? That's the law. Whether we like it or not, that's the law. So we need to abate the asbestos first. And there's also a process through the village that we'll need to make sure we're following, especially now in light of the fact that it does have some, it's not protected, but it does have the I don't even remember what it's called, the commemorative home or whatever. It's an old established site in the community, but it is not a protected site. So we will move forward then in October.
Yeah, I think we have to submit plans, and there's a 3-month waiting period and evaluation by the historic preservation.
And we have to abate asbestos. I mean, we couldn't just knock it down tomorrow anyway. I mean, there's things that need to be done. So all of this can be running concurrently. So it really isn't too much of a problem.
I'm happy to help Jane and John. If you want just a little help with getting something together for October meeting, I'd be happy to help you with that.
So we're getting a plan that includes timeframes, costs, steps.
As best that we can do it, yes. The things that we would have control over.
For all of those, 3 different ones, the way I see it. East School, well, 2, East School and the middle school with the 2 components, the science labs in the back.
Yeah, to actually do the work, and let's say even tomorrow, the village says, we've done all the paperwork, whatever, we still have to get the architects involved and make a plan. I mean, it'll be like a little construction project.
Right, and removing some of those items that are of significant value to us, then that necessarily lengthens the process some. And
increase the costs.
And increase the cost some. We need to find out as close as
exactly.
possible what some means. I did have somebody approach me about selling bricks from East School. Well, that costs money too, because then you have to save it and time, and so
There rules on how much we sell them for.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. If we can sell them for enough money, we can take as long as we want.
Not to jump the gun, but it's like some of the middle school work, could that possibly be done over this winter break, or is that?
It'd be really tough at this point to get it done over the winter break. Because some of this might have to go through a sealed bid process, or we can do something. But the architects have done no real work other than just at a very global macro level. So we've got to get them involved.
So now we'll need to write bid specifications and things of that sort, which we can do fairly quickly, but it'll still take some time. So,
Jane, does the middle school work involve the plumbing behind the wall?
No, that was all done with the referendum work. So this is really the fixtures,
That was a big issue with the middle school for years, was that the piping was so unstable that anything we did, and so part of that renovation of middle school was to solve that problem so that we could address these.
Right now, we have fixtures that our guys are repairing by creating their own parts because the parts are sold. So those are, it's the things, yes, is good.
The other strategic plan issue that to bring up tonight anyway is the partnership group, and the partnership group brought back 3 recommendations that are somewhat larger, but one is to pursue more grants, that the school should be pursuing more grants out in the private sector. 2 is to develop and implement educational partnerships such as PTO and Alliance. And the 3rd is to establish partnerships with businesses that will provide revenue opportunities. And beyond that, no work was really done, so the next question then would be, in what manner do we pursue grants? There are a lot of grants out there, but we may or may not be in the running for. And the partnerships with businesses, we would have to work on the parameters under which we would establish partnerships and for what purpose and to do what works. So from there, we'll need to have a little bit more detail done. And so at this point, the one thing that we've really discussed in any detail at all on that is the developing and implementing educational partnerships such as PTO and Alliance. Now, that was brought up in the previous strategic plan, and the idea just died. I don't know why. And we do have now a new group that we've put together called the Superintendent's Cabinet, which is central or district office administrators and representatives from Wellness, PTO, Alliance, and 2 teacher representatives as well. And this is an issue that we brought up at our last meeting, our first meeting. And there is some interest from the PTO and the Alliance to continue to look at this, because we don't want to burn out those members of our community that are volunteering and spending a lot of time. And we don't want to inundate the area businesses with requests for money. And so that is definitely an idea we still wish to pursue. However, I mentioned to that body that really that's out of the purview of the Board of Education. It's a volunteer group. You can't, nor have I heard any wish to compel them to do anything. I mean, they are volunteers, and we appreciate their time. We don't want to offend. We want to help any way that we can, but there really isn't, in my humble opinion, anything for the board to quote-unquote do on that, because what would you do? You know, you can't make them if you wanted to, and not that we've said that we want to. So I'm open to any suggestions at this point on that one. Is there any thought from anybody sitting here on how we could move forward on the issue of promoting more unification of PTO and Alliance? If no one has any thoughts, we don't have to come up with any today, but it's something we'll be bringing up. There's enough momentum that I don't want to just forget about it and then it goes away again. There clearly is interest, but we also want to be sympathetic and empathetic to those groups. None of us are saying that we don't want them to exist anymore. We're just saying we want them to be streamlined if that's what works best for them and the community.
I guess the one thing I would offer, having been part of both of them, and I would say worked quite a bit with both groups, it does seem that there are certain times of year where both groups are at sort of a high level of fundraising and fundraising at the same time. But we are hitting not even just business pockets, but really all of the pockets of the community at the same time. So, and I think part of it has been, obviously I wasn't around at the Alliance when it started, but at that time I think PTO tended to not do much fundraising. And I think that has evolved over the years. And so now I think that both groups have evolved a little bit, and we've come to this position where we're both kind of doing the same thing, although the way the PTO money is spent is a little bit different. Tends to be very student and family centered, where the Alliance tends to be teacher and grant centered, which is a terrific thing also to be able to offer. So I don't think we want to give up what either one of them is offering, but I think probably if we could come to a way where we can make the fundraising more spread out or somehow more complementary or some way. So I haven't offered a solution. I've just re-described what you said, but I agree with you.
Well, they are different. They are different groups. I mean, and you've summed it up pretty nicely. And you know, we want each group to be able to maintain its autonomy to do what its mission is, but at the same time, if we could, once again, when there's fewer and fewer volunteers coming forth, you know, we're just so very afraid that eventually there'll be no group because everybody's just tired, and that you know, the community gets tired of hearing about needing more money all the time, and they help, and people help beyond what we could even expect them to help, and we very much appreciate that, but we're really struggling for ways to try to help officially this thing to continue. And so if anybody has any ideas after today, you know, I'm all ears. So
I would just offer one thing to it. You know, we often look to our neighbors for what they're doing, and I know some of the neighboring districts have one foundation that provides all of these services for their community, for their teachers, for their families, their students.
District 67 certainly is a model we could use going forward, and we've talked about.
And I think that we could keep what's great about both groups, you know, still have a committee of this foundation or whatever that would perhaps take in the information for the teacher grant types of things, still have our committees who do more of the things that are the family oriented or the service oriented, the, you know, the projects that happen for enrichment or the school t-shirts or those things. But I think there's room for everybody in one large group with some rearranging.
Well, and going forward, I think at the very least, we'll bring it up at next month's superintendent's cabinet meeting and see if there's some goal setting possibly that could be done by both groups if that's the desire of each of them. So, and then we've got a new fledgling group coming off the ground, which Chris has done a great job of summarizing the work that they're doing, and she'll be back in the winter at some point to give a little update of what's going on. But There are some great volunteers there too, but I'll tell you, I can't believe Chris has a full-time job because I think she has two. She puts so much work in, and I would love to get her some help too. And there have been people helping, don't get me wrong, but she's been doing an incredible amount of work by herself. And Kathleen's been helping, and you know, we just want to make sure that we support all these people that are doing all the help for the district. And then next month, I will be updating you on the future learner, which we have been updated on more periodically than the others, because that is incorporated somewhat into our 2020 visioning process. However, there are some other unique characteristics of that as well. And then the fiscal austerity team, the work that they've done, I will be presenting some visuals from that as well for next month. So that's the longest superintendent's report you will ever have.
Thank you, Dr. Asplin. Okay, I just have two quick things. One, Kathleen handed to me this evening, and all the school board members have a copy of it. The newly published this afternoon, right? Yes. Annual report for the fiscal year 2009 and 2010, which she also made available for the community on the website. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
It's available on the district webpage. It's pretty obvious because it's right on the front page with an image of the annual report. It's the very first annual report this district has ever done. And it kind of gives the highlights of not only financial highlights of the district, but also some academic highlights of the district, including a page just about our awards that we've gotten. So it's kind of a nice thing to read, and I think a good way for people in our district to see what is going on from year to year. So, and then there's another piece that's also there, which is an interesting 2-page document that is a series of charts on the front page that really is a comparison for the Lake Bluff and the Lake Forest school districts regarding their tax rates and how they get there and what they mean, and it's very easy to follow. It's really got a lot of good information. And then the second page is the Lake Bluff School District in comparison to pretty much every North Shore district. And that also talks about what our budgets are, what the tax rates are, where the money is spent, and also meets and exceeds scores on the ISATs. So this was something where I was happy to put it together, but I have to say, without the help of Jane Lair, it would have been a lot of pictures. So she gave me all the good information, and then I put it together. So thanks,
Pictures
Jane.
are good. And again, Kathleen, you can access that on the district and each school's webpage, correct?
As of today, it's just on the district. But
District, okay.
tomorrow, it will be on the school pages, and it will probably be for at least a month or two, also in the green folders for people, because that's been a very quick place for people to look. But they will be there for throughout the year as a left-hand navigation button. So easy to find and interesting to read.
Thank you. The other thing I just wanted to mention was to thank Jane and Augie Ziccarelli and Tim McGrath last week for hosting I forgot it was just a week ago.
Yeah.
It was at Chicago area of the Illinois U.S. GBC
States Green Building Council
meeting, and we held it at Lake Bluff Elementary, so it was an excellent opportunity, and our students did a great job hosting tours of the building, and it was we probably had, 60 people there
About
maybe?
60, yes,
Yeah.
I believe.
So it was a great opportunity for us to showcase what a wonderful new school we have. Okay, on to standing committees. District Curriculum Committee?
I mean, I have to ask the question at this point because I know we're not changing committee assignments, but we're going to kind of just, because we've got the new plan going with the 2020 vision and all of the new committees that are part of the strategic plan, we haven't met, but we've been obviously updated by Dr. Hendrickson in terms of all of the curricular initiatives that are currently underway. So my question is, how do we go forward with that piece?
Well, I would say between now and April, it would be a nice idea, anyway, if if at least Dr. Hendrickson, through your guidance, would put together some summaries of the work being done for curriculum renewal, or just a periodic summary of work for 2 or 3 months, or however you would like to do it.
I think it's great what he did tonight. I mean, I think that's what, I mean, if we can just have that, but we don't really have any direct involvement at that point in that, because there's no formal meetings that are occurring. And believe me, I'm not asking to add any more meetings. I mean, I think he's, and Dr. Wertz are doing a really good job just trying to get everything moving, so.
And we've got the big meeting coming up next week with the materia groups.
Materia group, right.
So I think after that we'll have more to report. Maybe we can transition out of.
Right, that's what I'm just saying.
To a 2020 report.
That's all I was thinking.
Well, and I think with the 2020 visioning process after that, and the meeting, the subsequent one after that, and to add one more on top of that, that October 18th meeting, the tri-district meeting, which I should have mentioned in my report, I apologize. I think after that it will be a little clearer. There are a lot of moving parts right now, so you ask a great question, and I wish I could give a great answer. Maybe a month from now would be a better.
No, I just don't want people to think that just because we're saying no report.
Right.
that
No.
there's a
Quite
reason.
opposite. Yeah, that's a good
Okay,
point.
that's all.
Okay.
Thank you. So no report.
All right, Mary Jane, NSSED.
NSSED did meet this month, but it was the same night as Lake Bluff Elementary School curriculum night, so I was not at the NSSED meeting. However, 2 rather big developments for NSSED for this coming year. Karen Noonan, Director of Programs and Support Services, has announced her retirement at the end of the year. And Marilee Cielo, who is Director of Professional Development and District Services, is also retiring at the end of the year. Both of these ladies are terrific educators, and their shoes will be very, very hard to fill. Karen Noonan has been at NSSED 29 years, and Marilee has been in education a long time, and at NSSED more than 10. So that those, like I said, will be big things happening at NSSED as they replace those 2 very, very talented educators and administrators. And I just want to share one thing from Karen Noonan's letter. She talked about how grateful she was for the opportunity to work at NSSED, and I quote, "I've been inspired by the incredible courage of the students I serve, who every day overcome the greatest challenges. I've been informed and powerfully supported by their families, who will fuel my energy and passion for developing programs and services that ensure better futures for their children." And that's how Karen Noonan works every single day. She was also very complimentary of her colleagues, teachers, and administrators, and the governing board. So I wish her well, and we're going to miss her, and the same with Marilee, too, who also had a very kind and grateful letter in her retirement, too. But I thought Karen summed it up beautifully. So two big positions that we'll be looking for people.
And the tri-district NSSED meeting.
We have that coming up on October 15th, Friday. The 3 of us, the 3 boards, 67, 65, and 115, have been meeting and sort of discussing our position and our use of the NSSED services. So we are continuing to meet regarding what our future might be with those. Thanks, John.
Okay, Eric and Terry, Finance and Facilities.
We did not meet.
Okay, Shared Services, our next meeting is
October 18th.
Dr. Menton is, yeah, I don't know if there's something else going on. October 18th. Strategic Plan, John, you covered that in your report. Green Team, anything there? MJ, anything with Green Team?
No, nothing.
No? Okay, and Social?
No meeting this past month.
Okay. Anything we need to go back to? No? Okay. Action items, personnel recommendations.
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel recommendations as per the attachment.
Okay, discussion. Looks like we have 1 individual at the elementary school going out on maternity leave.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Okay, do we need roll call? No,
Yes.
we do. Roll call, please, Terry.
Kim Burke.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Al Pfeifhaus.
Yes.
Eric Grenier.
Yes.
Corinne Torkelson.
Yes.
Okay, next action item, approval of non-certified staff seniority list. Motion, please.
I move that the Board of Education approves non-certified staff seniority list as per the attachment.
Second. Okay, discussion on this one? Maybe John or Jane can give us.
Yeah, it's just to cover all those employees who are not covered under the collective bargaining agreement specifically. And I believe this is new. I mean, we called it something different before or whatever, but this is, we're trying to get everybody covered so that when we do an audit of the district employees, that everybody's actually in there each year, that the board has had some oversight of where people are and what their seniority level is. Just kind of filling a hole that might have been there before.
I thought it was good information. Yeah.
So it's a list of by position, name, and date of hire.
Yes.
Okay, do we need roll call for this?
You should do.
Yes, okay. Okay.
Okay. Corinne Torkelson?
Yes.
Erica Ney?
Yes.
Al Fivehouse?
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
And Kim Burke.
Yes. Okay, next action item, approval of budget for 2010-2011.
I move that the Board of Education approves the budget for 2010-11 as presented.
Second.
Okay, any additional discussion on this? Anyone?
I have a comment.
Tom?
I have a comment. This portion is really just a formality, but now that you're approving the budget for fiscal year 11, we are going to immediately then adopt an amended budget. We're going to set a special meeting for November 2nd. We'll have another budget hearing, followed by another formal approval of that budget. What is going to be amended in the budget is federal revenues and expenditures associated with those federal revenues, because we've just learned of those monies here in the last couple of weeks. So it's about $100,000, but it's a dollar in, dollar out, so bottom lines are not affected.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Okay, roll call vote?
Kim Burke?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Al Fivehouse?
Yes.
Erica Ney?
Yes.
Corinne Torkelson?
Yes.
Okay, possible action as a result of executive session? There is none. Okay, next action item, consent agenda.
I move to approve the following items on the consent agenda as seen on your TV screen.
A second. Okay, any additional discussion or questions, comments on the consent agenda? Okay, no? Okay, Terry, roll call, please.
Kim Burke?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Al Fivehouse?
Yes.
Erica Ney?
Yes.
Corinne Torkelson?
Yes.
Okay, new business. First reading of the new board policies, the press update.
We got two successive updates in a row, which is unusual. And all the summaries are on there. I spent, many hours going through those because I edited quite a few of them, which is unique, but several of them weren't exactly what we wanted. And anything that would be pertinent to change is already on there, on the summary. And Jane, I asked to look at several of the financial policies as well. And then one that they recommended as a possible change, we decided not to. So, but there's several policies on there. If you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So was this more of like a housekeeping?
Yeah, what usually happens is a great question. What usually happens is that once the House and Senate down in Springfield adjourn for the summer, all of the laws that have been changed, policies necessarily have to be changed as a result of some of those laws being changed. And so you get a lot more changes over the summer because of that. And so a lot of these are procedural just to reflect law changes that, obviously you don't want to have policies that are on invalid state laws anymore. So just a lot of work being done on that. And most of it's really just that, procedural. There's really nothing on there that's some sea change that we're looking at. The one big one, and I told Mr. Blackmer that his discipline committee has done such unbelievably great work. So has the elementary, but the middle spent a great amount of time on the bullying policy. And I told him, hey, you should do this. It's great. But I also know that they're changing the bullying laws in Springfield. And so we recommended changes a couple months ago, put them in, and then boom, they did change the law, and now we've got a new bullying policy that really has to be changed because they did change some wording in there that needs to be reflected in the policy. So no slight meant on the district discipline committee, but we really need to change the work that they just spent so much time on. But at least everybody will be that much more knowledgeable about all the pertinent laws that go into bullying.
Okay, so we will take action on these in our October meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Any other new business? Nope. Okay. Old business? Board of Education standing committees?
Well, I had emailed all of you. My recommendation at this time was to stand pat, just because we're changing lots of different things, and we've got an election coming in April, and I thought maybe that would be the time.
That's a good idea.
suggestion. Yep.
Okay, so our standing committees will remain as is. Okay, any other old business anyone wants to bring up? Okay, next action item would be adjournment.
I move at 7:58 that the meeting be adjourned.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mary.